Will Arizona be able to trade down in the NFL draft? Or will they make their pick at 3? Let's discuss. All right, everybody, welcome and hello. Welcome to Draft Brothers, the Champions Round podcast. I am your host, Jeff Hasley, and I'm joined by my draft brother, Dan Turner. Dan, welcome back.
I am back. What's up?
All right. Well, today we have on the show Jess Root. He's the managing editor of CardsWire, and he's going to help us understand what the Cardinals may do in the 2023 NFL Draft. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, let's get to it. All right. And so this is something that everybody wants to know, Jess. The Cardinals have the third pick in the draft. What is your preference? Do you want them to trade down? Do you want them to make the pick? What have you heard? Tell us any rumors that you've heard.
Well, it's really hard to know kind of what the vibe is right now because it's a new general. Like Monty Austinfort's never been a general manager before, and the organization is different now. And so, and if you look at his history, if you look at what he's done, what organizations he's been with, he spent all those time with the Patriots, and they put a premium on trading back and acquiring more assets.
Yes.
But then again, they were always picking in the 20s and 30s, which is which way different than picking in the top 5, because usually in most drafts, once you get out of the top 5, top 10, from about player 15 to player 40, you're kind of in the same tier of talent in a lot of drafts. And so it makes sense to trade back a little bit and get more talent that you can have. You get someone just as talented a few picks behind, and then you pick up other guys that you can, you either like or there's traits you want to gamble on later in the draft. The difference is this year the Cardinals have the 3rd overall pick, and since they don't need a quarterback, they are going to have their choice. They might be able to take the best position player in the draft, and that's a really hard thing to pass up. And so there are a couple of guys, a former, like he's kind of an insider who's worked for the team before, been in the media here in Phoenix a long time, says that Austinfort wants to trade back and acquire more assets. You can either go with the big-time talent in Jalen Carter, that I believe is the number 1 player on a whole bunch of draft boards, or Will Anderson, who is, like, if you look at the type of production he has, you look at, say, he could be a Nick Bosa, and you look at just how dynamic Nick Bosa has and what he's been able to do to that San Francisco defense. How do you trade down and pass up on one of these elite top tier talents to then get guys that are, so what's better? Do you get one elite player, especially at an elite position at like an edge rusher, which is an incredibly impactful position to a defense, or do you trade back and end up with 2 nice players? I mean, the Cardinals are definitely more than 1 player away, but I think like if it comes down, if Will Anderson is available, making sure that all the medicals check, because you could always have the dreaded Alabama medical come up. But if everything checks out, I think that, why you don't need to do much more homework other than that. You pick him, and then you just put him on the edge, and you let him get after the quarterback, and then and especially Jonathan Gannon in the defense that he ran in Philadelphia was predicated on getting pressure by rushing 4, and he had 4 guys with double-digit sacks last year. It makes complete sense. Now, there's another debate when you go with Jalen Carter, because if you go with a guy who has incredible he has credible metrics, but the production isn't there. You've only got 6 sacks in the last 2 seasons. He's got great athletic tangibles, but has he been an impactful pass rusher from the interior? Do you want to take a top 5 pick on an interior rusher that doesn't have big sack production? If you look at Quinnen Williams, look how long it took for Quinnen Williams to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
And
as a sack artist, at least, right?
Right. And Which would be better? Like I've seen the Cardinals go way back to, I think it was 06. I think it was. I don't remember what year. I can't remember what year it was, but it was the year they could have drafted Terrell Suggs, and they traded back. They traded out of the 5th or the 6th pick. I can't remember what it was. They passed. They didn't. Terrell Suggs, who was, by the way, the best high school player Arizona had seen, and then played at Arizona. They saw him.
That's right. He was local.
He was local.
That's right.
I remember he was a 2,000-yard rushing running back in high school.
Wow.
He was a running back that, and then he set the NCAA sack record while at Arizona State, and they passed on him. He turned out, like, sure, they got him back in 2019 and he was washed up, but they passed on him to get 2 consecutive first-round picks in the middle of the first round, and they picked up Bryant Johnson, a speedy wide receiver who had a pedestrian career, and Calvin Pace, who ended up having a nice career but didn't really do much when he was with the Cardinals except for 1 year. Eventually, with the Jets, had a fairly nice career as a pass rusher. But, would the Cardinals have been better off with a Terrell Suggs or with Bryant Johnson and Calvin Pace? I think the answer is quite clear.
Suggs,
obviously.
Easily
In this scenario, you trade back, and now maybe you trade back and your target is an offensive lineman, Peter Skoronski. And then you can pick up a good but not as elite talent pass rusher later on. You have to be really good at scouting to pick that guy out, because if you're going to value, and Austin Fort values the premium position, offensive tackle, cornerback, and pass rusher, edge rusher. If that's really what you truly value, why in the world would you pass on a guy like Will Anderson? Provided that the medicals check out, because he is a little undersized. Like like some people are starting to throw out there, like maybe Tyree Wilson could get drafted ahead of Will Anderson. I think that's weird. Like you've got to go, like Tyree Wilson has all the athleticism in the world. There's a lot of promise, but he played at Texas Tech against the Big 12. It's a different story. And you got Will Anderson, who probably, he'd have been a top 5 pick a year ago. And he played in Alabama, where you play the toughest football teams. And he's smart, he's incredibly athletic, he has incredible production. His tackle for loss and his quarterback hit production and his sack production over the last 2 seasons is unbelievable. That, and he has a great motor. You get the combination of measurables, motor, smarts, and he plays against the run as well. He's great against the run. He's like, why? Why would you go any other?
Why pass on him?
Why not? Yeah.
Why? Don't overthink this. Take Will Anderson and move on.
I guess it would take like a king's ransom, including maybe 1 or 2 first-round picks, as part of the deal for Arizona to make a decision and trade that pick away. But you make some excellent points, and I guess it just depends on what they want to do. You mentioned Jonathan Gannon, of course, the new coach, and I'm not sure if you know this, but Dan is an Eagles fan, and he knows Gannon well, even though Gannon's been with the Falcons, the Rams, the Titans, the Colts, the Vikings, other teams. But Dan's familiar with him.
Yes.
Dan is familiar with him. He's a defensive-minded coach, of course, so we're thinking that might be the case. I mean, Dan, do you have anything else that you want to say about Gannon?
Yeah. If Gannon runs, which I assume he will, the same system that he ran in Philly, to Jess's point, I think Will Anderson is, the best pickup for what the Cardinals want to do. I think you can just throw him right into the Hassan Reddick position in Arizona. Speaking of former Cardinals picks, Hassan Reddick.
Right. And I was wondering in that scheme whether he would be big enough to play the true edge, or whether they would be able to line him up in the Reddick position, because as it looks right now, they kind of have the guys that kind of fill 2 of those roles. You've got Zaven Collins, who can fill the TJ Edwards role. You've got Isaiah Simmons, who you could put on either side, but probably because you're white, his role is probably what suits him best. And Will Anderson in the Reddick role seems
Reddick
like
is
just
only
like
230. Anderson's actually bigger than him right now.
Right. So, here's the thing. Hassan Reddick, I'm going to pound the table for this. The Cardinals did mess that up. Every NFL team was going to mess that up. Mm-hmm. Every NFL team had him as an off-the-ball linebacker because at 6'1", 235 with short arms, no one saw him being the pass rusher that he is today. Now, he's done that. There's one thing. I don't know how long he'll be able to sustain it because the second he loses that elite get-off, I don't think he'll be the same player. But every team was going to mess that up. And it was because of Reddick that Micah Parsons happened, I think. Mm-hmm. Parsons actually played off the ball. Reddick had no instincts for it. That was the issue with it. He had no instincts. Yeah. He had the athleticism. He had no football smarts when it came to playing linebacker.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. If you like sports and playing sporting games, download the Champions Round app. Get playing and start winning. And use promo code DraftBros for a free $10 and check out our newest game mode, Spicy Slips. If you love live sports gaming, the NBA, or you just want some extra action this NFL offseason, come play Spicy Slips. Build a 2 to 5 leg parlay of live props and win big today. Jess, I want to just mention here the fact that Arizona's got 5 picks in the top 106. You don't necessarily have to name specific players, but I'm just kind of curious what positions they might be targeting with these 5 picks.
If you're looking at the premium positions, you're going to look at pass rush, you're going to look at tackle, and the Cardinals don't have a great need at tackle, but you can also take tackles and turn them into guards. If you look at the Green Bay Packers' philosophy over the years, is they always draft a tackle and then make them another position. Because tackles are often your most athletic, your more skilled players, because they typically will move your best linemen to tackle. Cornerback is a position of need right now. Byron Murphy's going to be a free agent. Marco Wilson kind of came on, but also Antonio Hamilton is a free agent. There was a lot of questions. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to cornerback position. The Cardinals were really unfortunate last year. They thought they had a guy in Jeff Gladney that they would be able to count on, and then he tragically died in a car accident, like just a month after he was signed. And so kind of their plans at cornerback were shot. And then Antonio Hamilton burned his feet, missed the first part of the year. Luckily, with having a guy like Isaiah Simmons, they were able to play him mostly in the slot, and it didn't affect, like, schematically, they were in a good spot. I would expect, like, the way the team is set up, they could pretty much use players at any position. A lot of different positions. I would, excluding, like, there's no need to put a premium pick on safety, quarterback, probably receiver. Other than that,
you mentioned Kyler Murray early on. Dan, I'm just curious. I know you're waiting to ask something here about him.
I am. So in this mythological realm that I live in, called my mind, if the Cardinals are at 3, and we know that you have Kyler Murray, and you've gave him that deal, and you're devoted to him at this point. If someone like, say, C.J. Stroud is there at 3, do you take him?
Nope. There's no sense.
Can't get much using that.
There's no sense. This is not that there. This is not a Josh Rosen scenario where Josh Rosen, 1, was still on his rookie deal, 2, didn't show anything his rookie year to really give you any hope that he was a great, and Kyler Murray's talent far surpassed the talent of Josh Rosen. That made it an easy pick, especially when you had the number 1 overall pick. Any of the quarterbacks coming out, you might think are on par with the talent of Kyler Murray, and you've already seen Kyler Murray perform. Last year aside, this wasn't a great year. He was a rookie of the year. He was a rookie of the year his first year. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler in 4 seasons. He looked for about a 5-game stretch like an MVP. The first half of the season 2021, he looked like MVP. And so when you've got a guy like that who, when healthy, plays at an MVP level, and you've already paid him, you ride with that guy, and then you just hope he stays healthy. And that's really been the only thing. It's like, if he stays healthy and there is a solid enough talent around him, look at what he's already accomplished. You don't have to, you don't need to overthink this. Josh Rosen was a tier below, and what Josh Rosen's career has become made that decision the correct decision. but Josh Rosen's talent was far inferior to Kyler Murray's, and his first-year performance didn't give you any hope that he was going to be elite when you look at the talent. So you've got guys like Stroud, you've got Bryce Young. If either of them were available, and I doubt they will because they're going to go, they're going to probably get drafted first and second overall. But if one were available, it doesn't make sense to make a lateral move, basically a lateral move talent-wise, and have to eat a ton of money and cause problem with and then make your organization. Like the Cardinals have made themselves look bad enough for the last year. Let's be honest, let's stop with the nonsense. Like people don't like the fact they gave Kyler that extension. It was always going to happen. It was always going to happen. But the things that have come out for criticism from the front office, then they give Steve Kyman and Cliff Kingsbury those extensions. After the season was over, there's no way for them to look good because either they were going to be going with the status quo, which would make no one happy, or they eat those contracts a year, not even a year in, making them look like idiots for giving them for the first place. That's a no-win situation in terms of that. So Kyler Murray is the guy. They have to believe in Kyler Murray when you pay him that amount of money, and you've seen what he's done. It makes sense. We've seen what the ceiling can be. And it's great. And so you don't have to, it's just with Kyler, it's a question is how long can he keep that ceiling play there? Because we've seen what the ceiling is, and is as good as any elite quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
I tell you what, though, if one of CJ Stroud or Bryce Young is available at 3, meaning maybe Will Levis was selected 1 or 2 or something like that, that Arizona phone is going to ring.
Yes.
It will.
Now the question is, in an ideal scenario, then it would be 4 or 5 calling, so that they don't have to fall back very far and they can still land one of those top guys. Otherwise, like if you're dropping back 10 picks, you might get a ton of picks this year and next and the year after. But what are you giving up in talent for the future if you're trying to rebuild a team now and you've got this home run of it? Like as of right now, it looks like a home run of a pick. It just almost kind of like it made sense. Like in 2019, when the Cardinals had the number 1 overall pick, like pick Kyler Murray or Nick Bosa, and you don't have to overthink that. The only question is why you would take Nick Bosa is because you believe Josh Rosen was a franchise quarterback. And then you don't even have to worry about that. That's you do your research for the second round and on.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Jess. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insights on the Cardinals. And for you guys listening, thank you. We appreciate your support. Please do us a favor. If you like the show, give us a like, a subscribe, a comment, all the good stuff that helps us crush the algorithm. Download the Champions Round app and use the free $10 bonus code. And on our next show, stay tuned. We're going to talk to Mookie Alexander of Field Gulls to discuss the Seahawks. Your entertainment is our passion. We will see you next time. Thanks so much, Jess, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for having me, guys.